everybody. I'm Mrs. Mallick. This is my 22nd year working in the Andover admission office, and I'm so excited to be here today with you talking about essay writing.
Awesome. And my name's Miss Carroll. This is my second year in the admission office here at Andover. And I live on campus with my family. I help run a 10th through 12th grade girls dorm, and I also help coach girls JV2 lacrosse. And Miss Mallick does both of those things as well. I know I can speak for her.
We are also joined by 4 awesome Team Schumann colleagues who are in the background. So the way this is going to go is Miss Carroll and I can see the chat. So if you send a little message to us in the chat box, we'll see it. And we're actually going to ask you to put things in the chat because this presentation is going to be as interactive as we can make it. The Q&A is for if you have a question. So if you have a question, yes, Nina, I can see your chat. If you have a question, put that in the Q&A box, and one of our colleagues, Ms. Jameson, Ms. Tucker, Mr. Graver, and Mr. Karst are all in the background answering the questions in the Q&A. So if you put something in the Q&A, Ms. Carroll and I won't see it. But if you put something in the chat, that's where we're going to ask you to put things and interact with us during this presentation. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and also just a reminder that this is for prospective students, so we should have applicants who are on this webinar joining us today. Of course, if there are parents here, we can't see you, we don't know, but just know that the purpose of this is to give some guidance to students as they go through the process of working on their essay and short answers, because it's meant to be their work and all of their writing that's submitted as part of the application. So just a shout out to any lingering parents that are here. This is meant for students.
And one more thing, if you put a question in the Q&A box, we have 4 colleagues helping us, but there's a lot more than 4 of you participating today. So we might not be able to get around to answering all of your questions, but we're gonna, at the end of the presentation, we're gonna share with you who you can ask if you still have questions afterward, okay? Great. Are we good with that slide, Ms. Carroll?
Yeah, we are.
All right, so we have some goals for today, and hopefully by the end of our presentation, we can say that we have achieved them. So first, we want to introduce you to one specific part of the application, which is part 2, the short answers and essay. The application has several parts, but we're going to focus on that one specifically today.
And we want to give you a little bit of advice and things that you should do and not do when you are writing your application essay and short answers. I know that sometimes these things can be a little confusing or intimidating, so we figured we'd give you a little advice.
And we get a lot of questions, especially when we interview students about the essay and the short answers. What are you looking for? What about the word count? What should we be writing? And so hopefully we're going to address all of those very frequently asked questions about this part of the application.
And we want to help you relax a little bit. This doesn't need to be a scary process. We want to put your minds at ease a bit.
And lastly, we hope we're going to have a little bit of fun today. All right, so first up, we're going to launch a little poll here because we want to get a sense of how you're doing. So I'm going to launch a poll. Can you see that? How nervous are you about this part of the application? And so the options are extremely nervous, somewhat nervous, or not nervous at all. You've got this. And we'll just give you a little bit of time to plug your answer in. I'm sure you can see it because you're participating. And thank you for that. Sometimes Ms. Carroll and I can't always see what's on the screen when you see it. So
pretty quick participation too. You guys are on top of it.
Yeah, good job. We've got almost 90% of the room has answered the question. So thank you. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there and share with you that, so it looks like 15% of you are extremely nervous, 67% of you are somewhat nervous, and 19% of you are not nervous at all. I hope that some of the 19% are some of the students who already did this session with us in December. You guys none of you should be feeling that nervous. Great. Thanks for sharing. All right, so let's talk about part 2. We actually asked for 3 samples of your writing in part 2 of the application on gatewaytoprepschools.com. One, and we're going to go over each piece of these. First, we asked for a copy of a graded paper from school, and Ms. Carroll will talk to you a little bit more about that. 2, we asked you to respond to 2 questions in a short answer response. And then 3, we ask you to write 1 longer personal essay, and we give you 4 questions to choose from, but you only have to answer 1, okay? So we want you to do all 3 of these things, and we're gonna go over each of them one by one right now.
Okay, so first up is the graded writing sample. And I will say, we get a lot of questions about the graded writing sample on a regular basis. So hopefully this answers all of them. But we ask students to submit a piece of work from this school year that is graded, has teacher comments, and includes the rubric. Ideally, we would like this to come from an English or an ELA class. I know every school has a different name for what that class is. But it also could come from a history class, a social studies class, if maybe you don't have something from your ELA class that's been graded and returned to you yet. And so in this world of virtual learning, we understand that maybe you're turning everything in on a virtual learning platform and things are returned to you digitally, and it might seem like it's a little tough to navigate, like, how do I submit all of those pieces when it's not returned to me in that way? And so we invite you to do a couple workarounds. So if you don't have a copy of a graded writing sample that has the grade, the teacher comments, and the rubric all included, you can maybe take a screenshot of your teacher's comments or of your grade or of the rubric and turn it into a PDF and upload it into Gateway. But the point is, the reason we ask for this is not to see the grade that you got on a piece of writing, but really to understand the expectations of your teachers and your school. We have students applying to us to different grades from all over the world, public school, private school, charter school, homeschool, all different kinds of places. So it's really helpful for us to understand what the expectations are when you are submitting written work or writing assignments. And so all of that should be uploaded to through Gateway. If you're having problems with that, if all of the workarounds and all of these helpful hints still are posing a little bit of a stumbling block, you do have a personal application advisor that could potentially help you work around that. And we'll share that information at the very end of this. Did I miss anything, Ms. Mallick?
No, but I did. I forgot to do something, Ms. Carroll, at the beginning. And can I have a do-over?
Sure.
So there's also more people in the room now than were when I said this originally. So the chat is for you all students to communicate with me and Ms. Carroll, who are the presenters today. And the Q&A box, we have 4 awesome colleagues from the admission office who are answering the questions in the Q&A box. So Ms. Carroll and I cannot see the Q&A, but we can see the chat. But if you submit a question in the Q&A box, one of our awesome colleagues will hopefully get to answering it. So for the chat, we would love to see where you're all joining us from today. So if you haven't done so already, or even if you have, just send us a little chat, which Ms. Carroll and I can see, of where you are logging in from. And it's kind of fun to see, because I always look for kids from New Jersey, which is where I'm originally from. Yes, Fairhaven, New Jersey.
What about Maryland? Is anyone from Maryland? Baltimore?
Ms. Carroll's from Baltimore and a Ravens fan. So, this is always, another New Jersey person. Love it. Oh, I see someone from Maryland. 2 people. One's from Bethesda.
Okay.
Nice. Thanks so much for joining us from such an amazing array of places. Okay. Thanks for letting me do that over to Ms. Carroll.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on to the short answers. So we just posted here what the application looks like when you go into gatewaytoprepschools.com and you're working on your application. For those of you who already started working, this should look familiar to you. But we have 4 questions, and we ask you to pick 2 out of the 4. And I'm just going to give you a minute to read them over in case you haven't, if this is your first time seeing what our short answer questions are. It might be good to look them over. I'm not going to read them out loud, though. And thank you to all of you who woke up extra early in your time zone to, to log in. Someone's asking, is this for us to answer right now? No, this is part of your application to Andover, which is due February 1st. So you still have loads of time to get this done. All of these questions are available on our application website, which is gatewaytoprepschools.com. All right, so was that enough time, Ms. Carroll, do you think?
I think so.
All right,
I tried to read it.
All right, so some of the questions that we get are like, should we answer a particular one? Do you have a favorite short answer question? No, we actually like all 4 of these. So please feel free to answer the 2 that you like the best. We like them all. Otherwise, we wouldn't have given them to you as options. So feel free to pick 2 that you like. The goal of the short answer response is for us to get to know you better. And so we want to get to know you as a person. We get to do that a little bit in the interview. And we also get to do that a little bit here in the short answers and essay section of the application. So please answer authentically, be yourself, and use your own voice, which we'll be talking about a little bit more in a second. Okay, one more poll. This is the second one, yes? So which short answer question do you think you're gonna answer? The one that asks you what you do just for fun, the one that asks you about what you do that's non-SIBI, the question about your go-to adults, or the question about which talents, skills, and interests you would like to share with the Andover community if you come here next year. Guys are participating in this poll fast.
I know, I like it. Quick.
Me too. So someone's asking us, how long do the short answers have to be? I think the word limit is 150 words for each of the 2 questions that you answer. If you write 155, it's going to be okay.
But maybe not like 500.
Exactly. All right, so that was a minute. I'm going to share the results with you. So it looks like you all like or a lot of you like the just for fun question. A lot of you also like the non-SIBI question. A small number of you like the go to adult question, and then town skills and interests is actually tied with question B. This is very similar to the results of our previous presentation. I will give you one little hint, is that our boss, Mr. Ventry, who's the assistant head of school for admission and financial aid, if you actually interview with him, he's going to ask you about your go-to adult in the interview. This is one of his favorite questions to ask. So even if you don't answer it in your application, think about it if you haven't had your interview yet.
File that away. That's a good tip.
Good pro tip. Okay.
Okay, and just one more little piece about the short answers. For any students who have joined us today who are applying for 12th grade or as a postgraduate student, please know that you have to answer one of the questions from A, B, or C, and then you have to answer this E, which is an option. You'll see that when you log in to Gateway and look at part 2 of the application. So you choose one, A, B, or C, and then you must respond to E. It is pretty similar to D, but it's geared slightly differently for students who are applying to 12th grade or as a postgraduate student. Okay. Okay, next up is the essay. So the essay, every single student has to submit an essay, and the essay is you choose one of these prompts. So there are 4 different prompts, and the same way we enjoy all of the short answer prompts, we also like all of these too. So we don't have a preference. The goal of this is not for you to write what we like to hear about. The goal is for you to write what speaks to you. So you can choose any of these options, whichever one speaks to you, and submit an essay that is 500 words or fewer. Now, like we mentioned with the short answers, word limits are a guiding principle. I will not stop reading your application essay at 500 words exactly if you wrote 550. I want you, if every single word that you included in that essay is necessary and you go to 550 words, I think that's okay. I think it gets a little tricky if you go much beyond that. So just be thinking about that when you are going through the editing and the review process and you're like, it seems like I may have gone really over the limit here. So that's what we mean by this limit. And really the goal of this is for you to share more about yourself. There's a range of topics here, some that are really open-ended, which might be a little scary for some people, others that are a little bit more specific. So choose the one that speaks to you. And remember that, this is an essay, but it doesn't necessarily need to follow the typical 5-paragraph essay format. It still should be essay length. It should still read like an essay, as in having kind of a natural flow. But it doesn't have to fall under a certain format. Your teachers might ask you to always write a 5-paragraph essay, and that's not what we're asking you to do here, but we do want it to be essay length, and we would like you to answer the question, okay? And I think those were all of the big ones for me, but I know Miss Mallick has another pro tip.
So our word limit guideline is 500 words. When you go on to Gateway, it actually has a character limit, which is way more than 500 words. So please don't maximize the character limit. They're trying to give you some flexibility, but we're going to talk more about editing your essay later. We get a lot of questions about the first essay question, which is tell us your story. And it really is just that. Tell us your story. We wanted to give one option that was pretty open-ended, where you could really tell us anything about yourself that you wanted to share. So don't overthink that. And if it's too overwhelming for you, pick a different topic. You tell us, you don't have to tell us your full life story. It could be just one moment from your life. It could be one aspect of your life that's important to you. But we wanted to give one option that's sort of like free reign, talk about whatever you want to talk about. Lastly, and this is my best pro tip I'm going to give you all day, is that my suggestion to you is if you're done with a draft of your essay, go into your bathroom or somewhere in your house where there's a mirror and it's quiet, and read the draft of your essay out loud to yourself. And please do it out loud. Don't read it in your head. And so while you're reading that, if you stumble on some of your words, or if there's a sentence that you stumble on or a phrase, it might mean that a little revision is necessary at that section, because we want you to write in your own voice. It should sound like you telling us about you. And so sometimes if you read it out loud and it doesn't sound right, that's where you should spend your time editing. It's a good pro tip. It's a little bit embarrassing to read to yourself in front of a mirror, but no one else is going to be watching, so don't worry about it.
And
okay,
it works.
It totally works. Someone was asking in the chat who reads the essays, which is a new question. We've done this 4 times now and never got that question. So our admission committee is made up of a number of people who work for Team Schumann, which is the admission office here. On the admission committee, we also have faculty members from the Andover faculty from various departments, English teachers, math teachers, Spanish teachers. They all help us to read applications. So it's a combination of faculty members and admissions officers who will read your essay. Okay. How can your writing stand out? What do we look for in an essay is a common question that we always get. And so the answer is we want to see how well you write, and we also want to learn more about you as a person. So that, to the point about how well you write, it doesn't have to be publishable in the New Yorker. We just want you to write well for an 8th grader if you're in 8th grade. Now, if you're in 10th grade applying for 11th grade, we want you to write fairly well for a 10th grader. And we will judge you accordingly, right? So presumably a 10th grader should write a little bit better than an 8th grader, right? You've learned a little bit more over your life. But we also want to get to know you. So we're going to teach you how to be a better writer if you come to Andover. So it does not have to be perfect or publishable. We just want you to think about your grammar a bit, how you organize your thoughts, and feel free to be creative. And that's what those little pictures on this slide mean. If you're not that creative, it's okay. You don't have to be creative. But if you are a creative person, feel free to do it a little bit creatively. Showcase who you are.
And clarifying, creativity doesn't include turning the essay into a video. So it still should be written essay, but you can be creative in your writing.
Thank you for that clarification. Someone's asking for the tell us your story prompt. Can I talk about just one specific part of my life? Yes, absolutely. Okay, we're moving on to the next section.
Okay, as promised, we're going to give you some more helpful advice and some do's and don'ts, okay? So we're going to start with some grammar mistakes. We're only covering 3 right now. So the first one is run-on sentences, okay? And I'm going to read this out loud. I just have to take a really deep breath before I start. Rachel is very smart. She began reading when she was 3 years old. And while the Harry Potter books are her favorite, she also enjoys nonfiction selections from the New York Times bestseller list and cookbooks. That was extremely difficult for me to say without wanting to stop in the middle and take a breath. So this is just our reminder. If that's really hard for you to, if that's one sentence and it's really hard for you to say out loud when you're reading your essay out loud to yourself in the mirror, you might want to take a look at that sentence, break it down, get rid of some words. So run-on sentences, this could be broken down into so many different things right now, okay?
All right. This is my favorite kind of grammar mistake that comes up a lot, pronoun errors. Shout out to Mr. Graber, who also helped us with this PowerPoint back in the day. Okay, so here's an example of a sentence. Although the motorcycle hit the tree, it was not damaged. Now you see the word it there, folks. It is a gender neutral pronoun in this case. But as a reader, I love grammar stuff, by the way. I was an English major. This is so fun for me. As a reader, I don't know if the it is the motorcycle or the it is the tree. Which one was not damaged, the motorcycle or the tree? And so you want to read over your thoughts and your writing and make sure that it's a little bit more clear. So Miss Carroll is going to show a better version of the sentence, which is, although the motorcycle hit the tree, neither was damaged. That's so much more clear. Or the motorcycle was not damaged, even though it hit the tree. And in that case, it's very clear that the it is the motorcycle. I hope that makes sense. Put in the chat if you get what I'm talking about with pronouns. Thank you. Yes. Oh yeah, I like the exclamation point. So what I find sometimes is because we're asking you to write in your authentic voice, and students do such a great job of that, you know what you're talking about when you're writing what's in your brain, right? But Miss Carroll and I may not have ever met you, we might not know you, and so we want to make sure we understand what you're saying. So it's good to go back and look at any pronouns that are in your writing and make sure they refer to something in a clear way. Thanks for that feedback. Okay, then this is like something you should have learned in elementary school, but it still comes up every year in students' writings. Apostrophe usage. It's a cold day in October. What's wrong with that sentence, folks? Put it in the chat. What's wrong with the sentence? Oh, I know you guys are not going to make this mistake in your short answers and essays. Yes, thank you very much for knowing that it's like that is a possessive. So you should put an apostrophe in there so that it means it is a cold day in October and not it's a possessive. These students are on fire, Miss Carroll, awesome. In the chat, on fire. They know the difference. Okay, so make sure you take a look at your apostrophe usage. Sometimes people ask, is it okay to use contractions because it's an essay? It's totally okay to use contractions. It also will make your word count shorter.
You can fit more into that 500
exactly.
limit.
All right, so one more poll to see how we're doing. Which grammar mistake do you make the most often? Please choose now. I know that I've made all of them in my lifetime. No one's perfect, but this is fun to understand this about ourselves, right?
I have some kindred spirits with run-on sentences, I think.
Exactly. All right, I think I can close this poll in about 4 seconds and share the results. So it looks like we have a lot of run-on sentence folks in this Zoom room today, which actually is what happened in the previous 3 sessions. So that's why reading it out loud is actually a very helpful thing, because you'll catch more of those when you do that. All right, let's keep going. Okay,
next up. Don't thesaurize. Thesauricize, that's a hard word to say. Use your own voice. Again, we've said this over and over again. Our hope in these writing samples that you submit and your essay and your short answers is to hear your own voice. So I'm going to read this out loud, and then I'm going to ask you a question. My mother is the most remarkable individual in my family, or in my existence. She was the inaugural member of our family to attend an institution of higher learning. She then went on to be under the employ of Bill Gates in the embryonic stage of Microsoft. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like an 8th grader wrote it. It actually doesn't sound like I wrote it either, because I clearly stumbled over the words. So I feel like we could make this a little bit better. Like, this is a really complicated phrase, right? So what I would love for everyone to do is we're going to go sentence by sentence, and using the chat. And remember, only the presenters can see the chat, so you won't be able to see other answers. But why don't you go ahead and put in a suggestion for how we can make this better? So my mother is the most remarkable individual in my existence. What can we replace the highlighted red portion with to make that simpler?
Oh, Meredith out in Western Mass. Hi, Meredith has a good idea, Miss Carroll. She says, my mother is the most influential person in my life. That sounds good to me.
That sounds great.
Good job. All right. Well done.
How about the next one? She was the inaugural member of our family to attend an institution of higher learning. So let's replace inaugural member and institution of higher learning. What else could we say?
Put that in the chat. Suggest your suggested fix. Oh my gosh, it's going so fast. Okay. Deepa says she was the first member of our family to attend college.
Perfect.
That sounds good to me. Good job, Deepa. That's
clear and concise. What about the last sentence? Can we fix under the employ of and embryonic stage? What can we replace those with?
Oh, wow. Good job, everybody. Oh, they're coming in fast now.
There are a lot of people here.
There's a lot of people in this chat room right now. Nico says she then went on to work for Bill Gates in the early stage of Microsoft.
Perfect.
That's perfect.
That sounds so much better. Everybody. So just a reminder, if that's not how you speak, don't feel pressure to go to the thesaurus.com and put in the word that you were going to use and use the suggested from thesaurus.com. We want to hear your voice. So if it doesn't feel natural, if it doesn't sound natural for you, then stick with the original words that you were going to use. Okay.
All right. So this is my favorite slide. Be interesting. We command you. Be interesting. Use personal detail and show, don't tell. I think every English teacher in my entire life growing up, especially in middle school, said to me, show, don't tell. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So here's a sample paragraph. Members of a family typically interact with one another on a frequent basis from the time children are born into the family unit. In American culture, opportunities are built in for families to communicate during family gatherings, such as meals. Tell me what you think about this paragraph in the chat. Oh, Miss Carroll, can you go back?
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I can.
Okay.
There we go. I got it.
All right. What does it sound like to you? Does this sound like a good short answer to a question about your family? It sounds like a research paper. Boring. Yes, very good. It sounds boring and bad. It sounds unrelated to any person. Yeah, that's a good answer. It sounds like an encyclopedia. It sounds like a boring documentary. Okay. Yeah, because most documentaries are actually more interesting than this paragraph, I will say. All right, so let's try to fix this paragraph, okay? Now Ms. Carroll can show us a better version. Dinner at my house is crazy. Everyone talks at once. My dad's so excited about the new robot they're building in his lab. My mom rants about the article she read in today's Times. My sister shouts out random facts like the human head weighs 8 pounds. They love to talk. I love to listen. Now, what do you think? Tell us in the chat. It sounds more like a real person. Really engaging, relatable, and human. It's more vivid, a lot better, more personal. It paints a picture. These are all how we feel when we read writing like this. Like in just a few sentences, you really get a picture of this student's life and family. Right? And that's what we want for you to do in your writing with us, is to include those details that are just about you. You know, don't talk to us like a very boring research paper. Yes, good job. So we all agree that we like the second version better. Kelly says it feels like it went from a robot to a living, breathing person. Absolutely. Great job. All right, let's move on. So our next slide is about wordiness. So let's take a look at this paragraph. My father's company is involved in the manufacture and distribution of waterbed supplies, including heaters, thermostat controls, and mattresses. The bulk of the raw materials involved in the manufacture of the products are imported from France. First of all, there's probably not a good essay question or short answer question that is it's appropriate to talk about what your father's company does. But in any case, let's try to shorten this very, very long worded paragraph. And so now it says, my father's company manufactures and distributes waterbed supplies. The raw materials are imported from France. And just like that, we cut out 20 words, 20. And it still says basically the same thing. Don't write about your father's waterbed company, but do take the time to cross out all the superfluous words that you don't need to have in there.
And do they even still make waterbeds?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure.
Anyone in the chat has ever seen a waterbed at this point.
Sophia says, yes, they do still make waterbeds. All right, Sophia.
Okay. So
Somebody William is asking, what is a waterbed?
That tells us something. We might need to revise that next time.
I think we have to change this PowerPoint for next year.
Oh man. Okay, so we just went through a lot of different things, and really the point is we want you to revise and revise and revise again. And so here are some things to ask yourself, some questions to ask yourself as you're going through this process. Have you answered the question? Are you using concrete experiences and supporting details? Are you using any cliches or lessons learned when you're answering your questions? Is it memorable? Is there anything that's unclear, maybe needs to be elaborated upon? Do you need absolutely every single sentence, or even sometimes just every single word? We just went over that exercise. And what does your essay say about who you are, about your personality? Okay, so I invite you to take a picture, take a screenshot. This is a really helpful list of questions to ask yourself, okay? I'll give you a minute before I press the next button.
After you read your essay out loud in the mirror to yourself, then ask yourself all of these questions, and that will help you to revise.
Okay, was that enough time?
Did you all get your screenshot or whip out your phone camera?
Command-Shift-4 if you have an Apple.
Oh, good pro tip. Love it. Yep,
Okay.
everyone's saying they were able to take a picture. Okay.
Perfect.
So this is a sample essay from a while ago. We used to have a question on our application that said, tell us about an important person in your life. And so here is a sample response to that essay question. And this is not a real actual student's essay response, but it is a combination of several students' actual essay responses. Okay, you ready? The most influential person in my life is my dad. He plays the violin and the saxophone. He loves music and so do I. That is why I want to go to Phillips Academy, because you have a great music program. I also play lacrosse and football. Don't you just love the Patriots? All right, so let's talk about this essay and put in the chat a mistake that you have found. All right, so Brock, I hope I'm saying your name right, has pointed out that saxophone is spelled incorrectly. Good job, Brock. So it's one of my pet peeves, actually. If you play an instrument, you should be able to spell the instrument. So make sure that you check your spelling and don't just rely on spell check. All right, what else is wrong? Let's see. Who has found a mistake? Ava has noticed the misspelling of the word Phillips. Very good, Ava. So Phillips has 2 L's and no apostrophe. So if you're applying to our school, again, you should know how to spell the name of the school that you're applying for. So please make sure you check that the correct spelling of the school to which you are applying. And then someone named Vivien, great name. Vivien says academy is also spelled incorrectly. Good job, Vivien. So academy is actually A-C-A-D-E-M-Y. So please look at your spelling. Great job. All right. So what else is wrong about this essay? Tell us what you think.
We keep calling it an essay, right?
The sentences seem choppy. Good. It didn't really explain why the dad is important to him. Good job, Aaron. So the question is, tell us about an important person in your life. And did he answer the question? Not really, right? He kind of goes way off topic, which some of you have also pointed out. The essay didn't answer the question. It did it first, but then it went on to describe things about the student, Audrey says. Good job, Audrey.
Great.
Okay, what else is wrong? Oh my gosh, there are 99 things in the chat that I haven't.
There's like one big thing.
It doesn't flow, right? Oh, Gowrie. She says, is it an essay? Question mark.
Ding, ding,
And
ding.
Andrew says it's too short. That both of you are correct. This is not essay length, right? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 sentences. So like Ms. Carroll said earlier, we do not expect you to write in full 5-paragraph standard essay form. You don't have to do that, but it should be essay length. And this is just paragraph length. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Was that helpful? Put it in the chat if that was a good sample essay of all the things that drive us crazy about essays. All right, last poll. I'm gonna launch this right now. We're gonna re-ask you the same question we asked you at the beginning, which is how nervous are you now about writing your short answers and essay?
And I hope these changed, or else we did not do a very good job.
That's right. It's looking like we might have done an okay job, Ms. Carroll, because the numbers have changed quite a bit.
I'll take it.
Since the beginning. All right, a few more responses. So we have got 6% extremely nervous. That's down from 15%. 37% somewhat nervous. That's down from 67%. And now 56% of you are not at all nervous. You've got this. And that is up from 19% of you at the very beginning. I am so glad that this has helped you feel a little bit better about getting started on your short answers and essay. And there are a lot of people in the Zoom room, so these percentages are actually quite meaningful.
Yeah.
All right.
That's how we feel about that.
Andrew wants to know, will you tell us the word counts for the essays again? So for the short answers, you have to write 2. That's about 150 words or fewer. And for the long essay, that is 500 words or fewer. But as we mentioned before, the Gateway won't cut you off with a word count. They'll cut you off with a character count, which is way bigger than the word limit.
And if you're worried about the word limit, I hope you know that you can always cut, like you can select your writing and you'll be able to see it at the bottom of the page. It tells you your word count. That's just another little trick.
Someone is asking us to show the short answer essay questions again. Miss Carroll, would you mind going back to that slide real quick?
Sure.
Do we have time?
We have a little time.
We have a little time, right?
Sorry, I have to go back through. In reverse. Now you can see exactly. There we go.
All right. So if you could either take a picture of this now or when you log into our application portal at gatewaytoprepschools.com, these questions will appear in the short answers and essays section. So you don't actually have to take a picture because it will be there when you start your application or continue with your application. All right.
Are we good?
Are we good there? Okay, let's go back to where we were at, I think.
Victory.
Victory. We feel good. We're not nervous. You guys have got this, right? All right.
We have a little time, it looks like.
Someone named Anna says our PowerPoint is amazing. And I give all credit to Mr. Graber and Miss Carroll for that. I had very little to do with it. All right, questions. Now you can throw your question in the chat or in the Q&A, right? But Ms. Carroll and I are only going to talk about the short answers and the essay part of the application right now. We're not going to talk about other parts of the application, if that's okay.
And we did get a question about whether or not this would be available afterwards. We are recording, but we're going to decide after this is over how the recording went before we decide to share it out. So it is being recorded. We hope to be able to share it out, but we just want to take a look at it and make sure that it's good, right? To share it out.
You can tell us whether you think we should share it out or not. All right, when are the essays due? Someone wants to know. February 1st is our application deadline. You can feel free to submit it early. We will read your application once it's complete. So we do start reading later this month. Will it be all right to write my essay in third person if I choose the first prompt? I mean, sure. We want it to be like about you though. So I don't know, Ms. Carroll, what do you think about that?
The third person makes it a little difficult sometimes to like truly get a sense of you because it's like from another perspective almost. So I would maybe, if you want to try, I would make sure that when you go through the revision process that you ask yourself those questions that that we shared to make sure that you really are answering the prompt and that it's clear and that it shares a little bit more about you and is your voice. So I would be a little cautious. I would just make sure that the intention of your essay, if it's in the third person, comes across clearly.
Somebody's asking, is it okay to submit an analysis of a poem or a short story for the graded paper? Yes, that is totally fine. If you have an analytical essay, it doesn't have to be, reflective writing. It can be an analytical essay to submit or an analytical couple paragraphs. We just want to see what you're doing in school for writing.
And I know some people, I've met with a lot of students so far who say that they haven't received or submitted any graded written work yet, which is crazy. I don't know how that's possible. It's January, but you can't make it up if you don't have it. So we, even if it's like, maybe if it's think outside of the box for this year, if it's a response for science, if you absolutely have nothing for English and history, it's ideal if it's from this year. It can be any kind of written work that you received feedback on, if you absolutely don't have something from an English or a history class. I know I've met a couple students who are like, I don't have anything, which hopefully you have grades then, I don't know.
Someone was asking what makes an essay memorable. I have a few in mind, and what they have in common are that they are about one very specific detail of that student's life. One young person wrote about the size of their shoes, but it sort of expanded itself into being the tallest person in their middle school, and how they stood out and how that felt for them and the experience of being an exceptionally tall person. Another person wrote the opposite, that they were the smallest person in their middle school, and the experience of being in middle school, being, confused as someone's little sibling, or, and walking around life that way. And the third essay that I can think of right now was about a parking lot. Don't ask me why, but it just had a lot of specific detail that could only have been written by this student who had this life experience. And he was very frustrated by that parking lot for a particular reason. So I think I like it when it's, mostly like only that kid could have written that essay, right? Because they shared so much detail about something that was very specific to them and their personal experience. Kind of like that essay about the kid's family, the paragraph about the kid's family that we went over earlier. Anyone could have written that first very boring, very dry, very generic paragraph about a family, but only the kid who wrote about their little sister and their parents and how their interaction is at the dinner table. Like, no one else can write that about you, unless they've been to dinner with your family. But basically, no one else can write that except for that kind of writing, except for you. About your own personal experience. Does that make sense? Ms. Carroll, what makes an essay memorable for you?
I tend to remember the essays that that are genuine. You can like feel the emotion in it, or you get a true sense of the student and about something that they're really excited about or passionate about, and they're really happy to share. Because oftentimes I feel like when students write about things that they are passionate about, it flows so naturally. They're very easily able to talk about those things and provide details and make you feel like you're part of it as a reader. So for me, those are the essays that I remember.
Lorraine is asking a good question. Can I send in an essay that's from something outside of school instead of from being from school? And I would say no, because most of the graded paper is actually not about you. Students, it's actually about your school. We want to see what is a typical assignment from your school, because we have students applying from all over the world and all over the country, and every school is different. And I remember when I was in middle school, I would turn in an essay and get zero feedback, just a really good grade at the top, and no one would ever question anything I wrote, even if I did make a mistake. So I never really, like, in that middle school, never really learned how to get better, because I just got a good grade and no one said, oh, you actually should do this, or this sentence doesn't sound right, or you did lots of run-on sentences. So we kind of want to see what is expected of you at your school, which is not really about you, but more about the school that you attend, if that makes sense to you. So please have it be from school. As Ms. Carroll said, it could be from history class if you don't have something from English. All right, should we keep going to that next slide?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
earlier, when I mentioned that you should upload everything for your graded writing sample directly through Gateway, but if you are having trouble, you do have personal application advisors who are there to support you. And so we just wanted to share kind of a breakdown of who those people are in our office. We have some really wonderful colleagues who cover different areas. So if you want to take a picture of this or a screenshot of this, you have a different personal application advisor depending on the grade that you're applying for. So why don't you take a picture? I'll pause for a minute here.
These personal application advisors in our office are the best. They are awesome, and they are here to help you. Are we following Andover's word limit or Gateway's character count? You're following Andover's word limit, please, because the character count could let you go way, way over.
Yep, and Gateway works with lots of schools, and so I would just make sure that you're following all of the deadlines and things that we're asking you to do for our applications. And then this other helpful little tidbit, these are our email addresses here. You can always email us. We are happy to answer specific questions that you might have, but also know that you do have your PAAs. Maybe you interviewed with one of us, maybe you interviewed with someone else and already have a connection with another admission officer in Team Schumann, and that's totally okay. You don't have to reach out to us, but know that you can connect with us. You can also check us out on Instagram, on YouTube, and on our website. We always are updating that. But it is January. We're coming to kind of the close of our events for the winter, but we will be adding a couple more things on our website shortly. So just make sure you check back, okay?
Thank you so much for tuning in today and for being interested in our school. We really appreciate that you are with us today and that you spent this time with us, and we hope that it was helpful. And we're getting lots of nice thank you messages in the chat, Ms. Carroll. So nice. Thank you. We're grateful for you for being with us today. We hope it was helpful, and we wish you a happy and very healthy new year. And we are looking forward to reading all of your short answers and essays by February 1st.
We're ready.
Thanks so much. Have a nice day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.